geolocation API to get our location. I'm going to flip back over to my code editor and find my app component again. So we know that this position object contains that latitude. We want to take that latitude and figure out if the users are in the northern or the southern hemisphere. So we're going to use it to customize the look of our page. So why don't we print out our latitude right here in place of the string, hello world. And I want to get my latitude to display on the page. Okay, so how would you do this? That's the question that will lead us into understanding why we have to use a class-based component to begin with, right? So let's have a look at what is happening inside of our application as it starts up inside the browser. And as you see it visually unfold, you really are going to understand why it would be really challenging for us to somehow put our latitude in here if we were going to continue using a functional component. So this is a timeline of what happens to our application inside the user's browser. We start up the very top, where a JavaScript file gets loaded into our browser. The browser then interprets our JavaScript file that we are trying to create an app component. And that app component gets created, and then at some point in time, the app component is going to be invoked. So when that function is invoked, we then call our geolocation service. But the very important thing to keep in mind here is that getting this geolocation result back takes a certain amount of time. So this can cause an issue. So we call the geolocation service, and then in the very next instance, our app component returns a certain amount of JSX. The JSX is taken and turned into HTML, and then it's rendered out onto the screen. So that entire process occurs, and we see content appear on the screen far sooner than we ever get a result from that geolocation API, yeah? So essentially, we are waiting here to get our position back, and we've already rendered our app component a long time ago, and the contents of the app component are already visible on the screen, so yikes, this is not very good. So with this functional component, we don't have any good way of, well, waiting until the success of the callback right here, and then taking in the location, and then sticking it into JSX, and then returning it. We just don't have that capability with a functional component. Yeah? So the solution that I'm going to propose, and that is essentially your only choice, is going to be a class-based component. So why don't you pause right here, and in the next section, we're going to talk about the class-based component